We're back. Year 6, Hawkeye with me, Dave O'Hara. Momentarily, you'll see our good buddy Pat Angerer joining us. Can't wait to talk to Pat. Of course, as you know, Pat, a former Hawkeye All-American linebacker, also an All-Pro for the Indianapolis Colts. Pat now, year 2 going into him. Speaking of kickoffs, and the Hawkeyes getting ready to kick off. Pat going into year 2 as the analyst for Gary Dolphin's play-by-play on the Hawkeye radio network. Can't wait to talk to Pat. And then after Pat, we'll have Matt Randazzo. Matt, a new member, his first year kickoff, going into the Hawkeye radio pregame show. Can't wait to talk to Matt. And then we'll close out the show, as you remember, Sean Bock from years past. Here's Sean with 24/7 Sports and CBS Sports, talking all things Hawkeyes football today. Pat, can't wait to get to it. We've been off all summer on re-airs, as we are every summer. Does Gronowski need to be Superman, or can he just be what he was at South Dakota State, or does he need to step on the gas and make it even more?
The best thing about Mark is he doesn't have an ego, but he's got a huge work ethic. He's an amazing leader. You can really tell right away when you're there that the guys look to him, they look up to him, and all he's done his whole career is win. I mean, he's got, was he 49-6, that's insane. I think the only quarterback that has more wins than him in college football is Kellen Moore, who's got 50. So after this season, he's going to be the winningest quarterback, and if my research is correct, in college football history. And really, you talk about, does he have to be Superman? No, he's just got to do his job. And his job is competing, doing the right thing, not beating yourself, getting it to the athletes. And he's going to extend plays as well with his legs. And I know he's going to do that. He's prepared. He's tough. I am just super excited to watch him. I'm glad that he's here. He's a great representative of everything that we talk about with Iowa football, how he handles himself, how he works, how he carries himself, how he talks. We're extremely lucky to have a guy like that leading our offense.
I'll mention special teams, but we'll talk more about that later in this show and also future shows. But obviously with Drew Stevens coming back and restaking punting, so Drew Stevens, the kicker, you've got a couple of preseason or potential All-Americans. That's taken care of. Let's talk about your side of the ball, defense, linebackers specifically.
Well, the big thing about this defense is that they're led by Phil Parker. So I don't bet against Phil. The great thing about the linebackers is the fact that you look at these guys: Carson Shire, Jaden Harrell, Jackson Ruff. They've been behind Jack Campbell. They've been behind Nick Jackson and Jay Higgins, like some of the best to ever do it. So they've learned. They've waited their turn. Now it's their time. They've a ton of knowledge that they have. And what I really noticed at camp, when I've watched practice, is Carson Shire is going to be a dude. He's going to be a guy. He's going to be a dude, and he's got that. Jaden Harrell, Montgomery, great leaders in the middle. They're really intelligent, do a really good job of getting guys lined up. Jackson Rexroth, extremely rangy, can play the run, can play the pass, can rush. And you've got like you had mentioned, these young talented freshmen who are extremely athletic and just unbelievable. Just a little bit green, obviously. But once they figure it out, they're going to be really good. Our linebacker room is going to be set for a long time. And obviously, D-line's always great. Kelvin Bell, one of the greatest coaches and one of the most intelligent men in college football. He's got these guys playing extremely hard. They're having success. Watching them at practice, just super enthusiastic. Love my man Herkett, love my man Mad Max Llewellyn, and love those big guys in the middle. I think Pittman's coming back from, I want to say he's coming back from an injury. And you've got, Jonah Pace coming in, Bryce Hawthorne coming in, two guys that are gonna do really well in that defense. And our D line, they paved the way. Our defense goes as good as our D line goes. And fortunately, we've been pretty lucky with really good D linemen. Our corners, we had experience last year. And then what I'm looking forward to is Cohen Entringer. He was one of the few guys that came to me after practice. I was up there and ask questions, ask leadership questions, ask any questions. And it's kind of weird when people ask me questions like, who am I? Like, I didn't do anything. But I appreciate that. I appreciate him, wanting to improve, wanting to better his leadership, wanting to be a great teammate, wanting to be a great Hawkeye. Like that's cool. That's what it's all about. Kids that care. And then Xavier Wampa. Looks like an NFL player. He's going to play like an NFL player this year. I'm really looking forward to that switch for him at free safety. He's going to do a really good job, and just a great kid, really intelligent, smart, humble, kind human being.
See, you got it all set straight for us. We're all rest at ease now. Of course, Albany against Albany, the Hawks kick off this weekend. 5 o'clock Saturday, August 30th, Central Time, 5 p.m. on FS1 if you can't make it to Kinnick Stadium. A couple of names I wanted to mention. I didn't mention previous, single them out. Aaron Graves on some preseason watch lists on the defensive line. Obviously, Logan Jones on the offensive line at center. And, of course, Weejan, the return specialist. So when I talk special teams and say Drew Stevens and Reese Dakin, I got to mention Weejan. So
Yeah.
everywhere you look, Pat.
And when I mentioned our great D-line, I didn't even mention Aaron Graves.
Yeah.
You know, the one thing too, Aaron Graves, Herkett, and Logan Jones, I want to say they all got married this offseason, which just means that we're paying these kids too much. If they think they got enough money to get married, we're just paying them way too much.
Well, and I'm going to leave that from your lips to God's ears, as we talked about earlier. You know, folks, there he is, Pat Anger, a former Hawkeye All-American linebacker, great career in the NFL with the Indianapolis Colts. Pat, my friend, it's always great to see you. Thanks so much, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, Dave. Appreciate it.
Truly my pleasure. For Pat Anger, I'm Dave O'Hara on Hawkeye. We'll be back with more and Matt Randazzo next, and then close out the show with Sean Bock. Back with more Hawkeye in just a few moments.
Hawkeye is brought to you by Better Edge, your ultimate social betting marketplace. With no VIG, you're bound to win more on every bet on Better Edge. Founded by Hawkeye alum James Siles and proud Iowan Greg Kieski, Better Edge delivers an unmatched betting experience. Plus, what's not to love when they're committed to supporting charities and children's hospitals near you? Join the action now. Sign up at betteredge.com/Hawkeye and get $10 to start winning more today. Better Edge, where your social betting means your bets go further and you win more.
Welcome back to Hawkeye with me, Dave O'Hara. If that wasn't enough for you, Pat Anger, the former Hawkeye great. We've got one of his buddies and running mate, a guy I'm becoming very familiar with, but I want you, the viewing audience, to become familiar with. If you're not in the Quad Cities, where this guy was on the air as a sports anchor for the ABC affiliate WQAD, he was there for almost a quarter of a century, and now he is off the air with his new podcast, but on the air as a pregame host for the Hawkeyes, along with Dolphin and Pat Angerer. But Matt Randazzo, and Matt, you and I were talking off the air. Let's bring it on the air. We were talking about the way the crow flies in Iowa here, and people west of Iowa City are like Matt Randazzo, and I'm like, oh, you got to check out Matt. So online, go to social media at Matt Randazzo. All his handiwork is listed there. But congratulations, my friend, on all your success. Almost a quarter century of great work covering all things sports in the Quad Cities, and throughout. But great to meet you, kind of. And very happy for you, and been following your work for a long time. So this is a real shot in the arm. Thanks for joining us, Matt.
I'm happy to be here. Thank you for the kind words. I appreciate it. It's a changing time, but yeah, it's been a blast. I'm blessed, and I'm anxious to see what these next chapters hold for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. So Matt, let's talk a little bit about what you're a Quad Cities area native. You've known Pat Angerer for years. He's on your show, as he's on this show regularly, and he actually spoke very kindly of you. Apparently, he knew he was on the air, and we can't do a lot of editing, so I said, keep it clean. But it's always great to watch your two chemistry, but then you listened to Dolph and Pat last year in year one, and now you're going into your year one, Pat's year two, and Dolph, let's see, year 28. And you had Dolph on your podcast yesterday as we record this on Tuesday, August 26th, Tuesday afternoon. Talk a little bit about what your expectations are, what you want to bring to the pregame show. Of course, I'm on the postgame show on WHO and WMT with Doug Wagner, and then former Hawkeye receiving great, or all-time leading receiver Marvin McNutt for the Hawkeyes. So we're going to be in year two in our show doing that. So a lot of newness coming around. So what can we expect from you, Matt, please?
Yeah, Dave, I grew up an Iowa fan. So you mentioned I've known Pat. I covered Pat. I'm older than Pat, although I don't look like it, I don't think. I think he looks like the old man these days. But
true.
I grew up an Iowa fan, and here in the Quad Cities, I had to be careful because you have to be unbiased. You have to and we covered Illinois. We did everything we were supposed to do, but there's that little Iowa kid inside me that always is a Hawkeye. And so to get this opportunity somebody mentioned it to me the other day, to be the first voice that you hear on Iowa radio is cool. It's terrifying kind of in a way, because I don't want to mess it up, but it's a dream come true. I told Dolph yesterday on my show, I grew up and I'm 46. So it wasn't like, nowadays you can definitely watch Iowa football. It wasn't that way. It was like you celebrated when Iowa was on TV because you could actually watch them. So there was a lot of football games in the backyard while we were playing, listening to Iowa football, or cutting grass, or hanging out with my dad and listening to Iowa football. And now I get to be part of that. And I was going through some scripts about a week ago for the pregame show, and it was I tag out with "You're listening to Hawkeye football from Learfield," and like I got chills because I've heard that from Dolph a million times in my life. So to get to say that 7, 8 times a Saturday, in front of, maybe 500,000 listeners around the state of Iowa is super cool. And I want to embrace it and run with it. I want to have fun in that first hour. It is, everybody's excited. Like you have the task, on the post game that it's great when they win, but if they don't win, you still have to do the show must go on. It's always optimism at the beginning of the day. So I'm really excited, and we'll have Pat on and do the anchor analysis. We're expanding our, it used to be the Hawkeye Roundtable. We're going to do the press box perspective and expand it to a couple segments, talk to some of the great beat writers that many of them around the state of Iowa, and get set for what's to come. We'll talk weather, we'll talk about the field conditions, all those kind of things as well. This week, I was just up in Iowa City today. We did a little one-on-one with Mark Gronowski, so we'll have a one-on-one every pregame from a player as we get ready, and really cool to have QB1 on week number 1 as well. So it's just celebrating Iowa football. We'll have the kids captain, honorary captain, all those kind of fun things. So it's an hour and it's going to fly by, but it's going to be super fun to do. And it's, Dave, it's a dream come true that I get to do it.
When you talk about wins and losses in the schedule, and you talk about, Mark Gronowski upcoming will surely beat, or certainly beat, Kellen Moore's wins record in college football as a quarterback. Another wins record. He never wants to talk about it, but you and I will talk about it. Kirk Ferentz. It could happen in Ames at Iowa State. Most assuredly, we think and hope and plan on the Hawks winning against Albany. So that'll tie him with Woody Hayes for all-time wins in the Big Ten. And then an Iowa State victory, who looked pretty good last week against K-State. But I agree with a lot of our fellow media pundits who said Iowa right now is better than K-State. So this could be a heck of a game upcoming a week from now. Iowa State still has to get past South Dakota, and Iowa has to get past Albany. But KF, so does Kirk Ferentz get that record at Ames? And then so I'll add another question to the question, but where do you see the Hawks? Is it plus 7.5 wins? And does KF get the magic number in Ames?
Yeah, I think I was told I'm kind of a Hawkeye guy now, so I have to say they're going to go 12-0. No, I don't think
Right.
they'll go 12-0. But I would, if I was a betting man, I'd be well over the 7.5. I think we've had Chad Leistico on my show recently, a few others, and they have them at 10-2. I think they can go 10-2. I think they can be really good, and that week 2 game, boy, you talk about not needing more storylines, but getting more storylines. I mean, you already have the Cyhawks. You have the fact that Iowa State hasn't beaten Iowa in Ames in like a decade. It's been a long time since they've won at home against Iowa. You have what happened last year in the revenge, all those kind of things. Then you add the storyline in that Kirk Ferentz could get that milestone. Yeah, of course, I think that could happen in Iowa State. And like you mentioned, they're not looking at that right now. They're looking at Albany, but I think it'll add so much intrigue to what's always one of the best rivalries in our area and in the state as well. In college football, I think as well. So no, absolutely. The cool thing about their schedule, I'll say, is that you look at those ranked teams they have on the schedule. There's 3 of them right now: Oregon, Penn State, Indiana. There's 4, and then Iowa State. But 3 of those 4 are at Kinnick Stadium. That'll be the only time they, unless things change, and it probably will, they're going to go on the road and take on a ranked foe. So I think they have the advantage of maybe getting some signature victories at home throughout the season, which will help them in the long run. But yeah, that absolutely. Let's get Kirk that victory in Ames and walk home with that Cyhawk trophy. That'd be fun.
I love it. All homerism aside, I agree with you. And now back to homerism. Of those 3 of those 4 that you mentioned, Indiana, Penn State, and Oregon, all 3 were in the CFP, the college football playoff last year. So yeah, and then you throw in Iowa State and all the other games, Minnesota, Nebraska's supposed to be better this year, all these rivalry games, Wisconsin. There's no rest for the weary here. Yeah, I know we've got UMass upcoming and playing Albany, but then Iowa State is your non-con, and then 9 conference games, and it's a juggernaut, as we know. So could be a heck of a year. And I'm going to say something to you, Matt, everybody says, but I have to say it. Got to stay healthy, and everybody has to deal with this. So provided that all happens, could be a heck of a year in Iowa City this year. And nobody better than you to start us off each week with the pregame show, folks. He's Matt Randazzo, at Matt Randazzo via social media. Again, Matt, it is great to meet you. I look forward to having you on in future shows and can't wait to catch up with you again soon. Thank you so much.
Dave, I've appreciated this. I've enjoyed it. And anytime, let me know. Just make sure that Pat keeps saying nice things about me. I'm going to make sure I save that. I'm going to make that my ringtone on my phone if he said something really nice. I love that.
Absolutely. On the air, he's nothing but stellar on your behalf. But, off the air, I can only do what I can do. And I'm sorry for the shortened time today because, the TV world, this isn't podcast world like you and I do our radio shows. We can stretch it out. But one day soon, you and I will get more extended time to talk. But love talking to you. It's great to meet you for the first time. I'm going to have you back real soon, Matt. Thank you so much, Matt Randazzo.
Thanks, Dave. Appreciate you.
Truly my pleasure. For Matt Randazzo, I'm Dave O'Hara. Thanks again to Pat Anger. We'll close out the show with Sean Bock from 24/7 Sports and CBS Sports. All things Hawkeyes with Sean. Back with more Hawkeye in just a few moments.
Hi, this is Joe Mershman from Mershman Seeds. Substitutions cost you money. Why take their seconds when you can have our first choice? Here's Ben Paper to tell you more about Mershman Power Core Enlist corn.
We are way ahead of Big Seed on this one. This corn has 4 different post-herbicide tolerances, multiple modes of action for above-ground pests, and it is some of the highest-yielding corn genetics that are out on the market today.
If you're one of the many that got substituted on your corn hybrid last spring, contact your local Mershman Seeds dealer today and ask them about Power Core Enlist corn. From Mershman Seeds, your friend in the field.
Welcome back to Hawkeye with me, Dave O'Hara. Season 6, and a guy who I'm going to bring up on the screen here in just a moment, Sean Bock, has been with me for all those or most of those years. Year 6, Sean, we're kicking off our year 6. The Hawkeyes are getting ready to kick off their new season. It's great to see you again, of course, with 24/7 Sports and CBS Sports. Hawkeye beat writer Sean Bock. Sean, my friend, it's great to see you as always. Thanks for joining us, and how's everything going with you?
Yeah, Dave, thank you for having me. It's going well. It feels kind of weird now knowing that there's football season coming up because most of my focus this offseason has been the basketball program, new head coach Ben McCollum. That's really been kind of what I've honed in on. But now that it's football season, I kind of got that taste for it last month and starting to see high school practices start up, and you see some of the hype videos from the Iowa football media team that they're putting out, and you kind of start to feel it a little bit more. And I've kind of started to feel that way in a bit, and it's been nice. And it's hard to believe that it's a season opener this weekend.
Yeah, and the weather, the thermometer is dipped below 80 degrees, below 75 degrees, actually. So it's almost feeling like early fall in the air. And so should be great weather for kickoff. That shouldn't be an issue. But Albany coming to town, 5 o'clock kick from Kinnick Stadium on Saturday afternoon, August 30th. FCS program, they were in the playoffs a couple years ago in FCS. Interim coach right now, their head coach left from last year and is on Penn State staff now. What can we expect from the Great Danes or the Danes of University of Albany?
Yeah, they have 50 new players, I think, is the number on their team. Obviously, they got hit pretty hard from the transfer portal. Having your head coach leave is definitely going to do that. And it's a lot of unknowns. I think they're going to run a lot of the same things scheme-wise on both ends of the ball. They have Jared Ambrose coming back, who is their offensive coordinator. He's the interim head coach. They have a new quarterback this year. They have a couple new running backs, but their one main guy, I think Jojo Uga, is going to be their main back this year. And then Caden Birdie is a guy who they have coming back as well. So the offense is a lot more question marks, but they have a number of guys returning on the defensive end. I think they have 3 guys from their secondary last year who played pretty heavy snaps who are returning this fall. And they have a few guys at the linebacker position too, but mainly that secondary spot. So while I don't expect this to be too much of a test for Iowa, I do find it interesting to see how Mark Gronowski does with the passing game against this Albany secondary.
Offensive line positions, running back room, and then we'll go over to the defense after that. Please, Sean.
Yeah, left tackle, they're going to start Trevor Lauk. That's what Kirk Ferentz said earlier today. Lauk has been the guy that we've heard really take on that next step at the left tackle spot and replacing Mason Richmond. It was pretty close, it felt like, going into fall camp, but it feels like Lauk has really, in talking to people behind the scenes, Lauk has really been the one that's submerged a bit. But Kirk Ferentz continues to mention Jack Notzler, who I think is a fourth year guy in the program. Lauk is a third-year guy. Dotzler is a guy who just continues to keep pushing. He keeps pushing Lauk to improve, and the fact that Kirk keeps bringing up kind of makes me think that they're going to try and use him in some way. Maybe that's a backup at right tackle, but I think it's primarily him being that backup to Lauk in that left tackle spot. And Kirk Ferentz continues to say that they're going to use both throughout the year. I think Lauk is going to be the one that's going to get the majority of snaps on Saturday against Albany, but I think they're going to throw Lauk in there as well. So it's going to be fascinating to see how those two kind of mix and match. I think it's going to be heavy Lauk, but don't be surprised if you see Dotzler in there as well. Potentially, he could be kind of that swing tackle for Iowa that they've had the last couple of years in that third spot. And with the rest of the offensive line, it seems like it's in place. You have Bo Stevens at left guard. He was injured for part of the fall camp. Leighton Jones has really stepped up and took that spot there. He's a guy who I think could be a pretty good swing guard for Iowa, playing at left or right guard. Logan Jones in center, K. Pieper at right guard. Then you have Jennings Dunker at right tackle. So that's a pretty good offensive line group.
Let's stick with the running back room first, and then have you transition right into the defense, please, Sean. So running backs first, please.
Yeah, running back is going to be really interesting. That's a word I keep using, is interesting, because it really, like, there's, Kirk Ferentz said earlier today, there's so many really unknowns with this team that it feels like there are so many different unknowns with this team at various positions. And I think at the running back spot, Omar Young, Iowa's new running backs coach, he mentioned to me 2 weeks ago at media day that Iowa feels good about all the backs that they have right now, and there's a pretty big competition, but it kind of feels to us that Kamari Moulton's been the one that's emerged behind the scenes as that number one guy. And he's not going to be a Caleb Johnson type where he's going to be that big time playmaker, but he showed in games against Maryland and then Missouri last year that he could be a guy that could potentially break free for a big run and make a big play, and, kind of be that big time playmaker in that spot. And he's also pretty good, 4, 5, 6 yard guy too. But the depth is going to be really what takes this group to that next level, because you have TJ Washington, who Iowa used as a wide receiver for a bit. He's a guy that they feel pretty good about the running back spot. You have Xavier Williams, a second-year guy out of Northwest Indiana. It's kind of cool because a bunch of my family's from Northwest Indiana, so it's always kind of cool to see, guys out there, which Iowa doesn't really recruit down there. But Xavier's kind of that traditional Big Ten back. He's 6 foot, 230 pounds. And Dave, he's got some of the biggest legs I've ever seen at running back. And, there's been some pretty big dudes at the running back position. He's kind of that guy who can wear down defenses, run you over, but he's also got some speed to him and can make you miss in a phone booth. Then you have Jazian Patterson, who I think we've always kind of wanted to see more out of. And he's a really aggressive, hard runner. But I think he needs to be more of a disciplined runner in various ways with, kind of controlling himself and letting the offensive line, do their blocks and, set those blocks and, create those holes rather than just going right for it right away. Then you have Nathan McNeil, a true freshman out of Florida, who I think a lot of people were surprised has really made a big impact since he's arrived on campus in January. He was the only true freshman that Kirk Ferentz mentioned earlier today as making a potential impact this fall. And that's, you might need some of these guys like Yosei Epinesa later in the year, but Nathan McNeil, every time we've heard his name come up, it's just like he's been more and more and more impressive. And I think that really speaks volume that the staff keeps bringing him up, keeps mentioning him. And that goes to show, the depth with this running back room too. Like, there is just so much depth there. And it's almost like, how much depth is too much depth?
Anything on the defense that jumps out to you as we say our goodbyes to you here in just a moment?
Yeah, I'm sure Pat talked long and long about the linebacker position, but I kind of want to focus on the corner spots.
Let's do it. Yes, please.
Yeah, that's one of the big X factors for Iowa this year, because what have we seen the last couple of years from Iowa? They've had that lockdown CB1. I think Jamari Harris really stepped into that role last year, but that second spot was always kind of iffy, like, throughout the year. Once he went down, it was a little, tough. Like, we saw improvements from TJ Hall and Deshaun Lee, but I still think there was definitely a gap there from Harris's production to the other guys. And I think that also goes to show just how much Iowa relied and, really depended on Cooper DeJean at one of the corner spots too, because they would really just teams would want to throw away from him. And, that would put a lot of tension on the other guy. And, that was still a pretty, you can kind of shift your defense to that side of the field a little bit and, shift your safeties a little bit over to give some relief. And that definitely helps. But with this squad, it doesn't really feel like they have one right now. TJ Hall, I would say, is probably that guy who steps into that number one spot. The Iowa staff has been extremely high on him ever since he arrived back on campus. Oh my gosh, it's 3 years now. So they've been extremely high on him. Obviously, he had that Riley Moss sort of game against Nebraska a couple years ago where he was really exposed as a true freshman. But this is kind of his year where he's like, okay, like, this is time for me to, it's my senior year, time for me to perform. And it's really going to be interesting to see if he can step up and take on that CB1 spot and really be that lockdown guy. And then the second cornerback spot too. I mean, Iowa's going to use all 4 of their corners that they've been mentioning a lot. That's TJ Hall, Deshaun Lee, Jalen Watson, Shaheed Barrows, a transfer from South Dakota. Seems like Deshaun Lee has really picked up that. He's really kind of locked in that second spot. But Kirk keeps mentioning Jalen Watson. He keeps mentioning Shaheed Barrows.
Sean Bock, my friend, it's always great to see you. We'll catch up with you again soon. Thank you, my friend.
Yep. Thank you, Dave.
Truly my pleasure. For Sean Bock, Matt Randazzo, and Pat Angerer, and my production partner, Greg Kieski at Better Edge and BetterEdge.com. I'm Dave O'Hara with Hawkeye. That's all from us. Thanks to all of you.